In order to understand why there is a helium escape valve inside a diving watch, you need to first understand that a diving watch is meant to be used underwater and there is no air. So how does that watch come in contact with the air? Because helium is air. Why is helium required when it comes to diving? And also, to do a deep dive into this, we will also be explaining what are decompression chambers, what is nitrogen narcosis, and do all divers need a helium escape valve in their watch? Why is it that some diving watches also have a day and date window? So let's do a deep dive. In order to understand what decompression means, it is important to first understand how our body functions. See, on the surface of the ocean, the air pressure is equivalent to 1 bar. And in order for us to handle that pressure, there's an equivalent pressure that is created inside our body with the air that we breathe in. Let's assume there's someone who's diving down to 100 meters. Because the pressure increases by 1 bar every 10 meters. So at 100 meters, the water pressure that is being applied on your body is equivalent to 11 bar. But even in that case, the body does not implode. The reason for that is 70% of our body is composed of water and water does not compress. So it is impossible to compress that part of our body, but obviously the air part can get compressed. In order to stay in equilibrium, air pressure inside the body also increases. Because air can compress, the whole air has compressed down to the same volume as it was on the surface of the ocean, but the density is much higher. So now what happens is, at the surface level, the air that we breathe, 78% is nitrogen and 21% is oxygen. This nitrogen is not harmful for the body. But at 30 meters, this air, because it's now 4 times denser, means the amount of nitrogen in your body is 4 times more. And this creates an effect called nitrogen narcosis. It basically leads the diver to hallucinate and not realize where he is and can make a fatal mistake. Divers realize that, there is no real purpose that nitrogen is serving. So probably let's get rid of the nitrogen. And they found an inert gas called helium, which was mixed with oxygen in these cylinders. And if you do a little bit of research on Wikipedia, most free divers who cross 100 meters end up dying because the air inside their body becomes poisonous. At 90 meters, the density of oxygen goes up to 10 times what it was on the surface, and this is poisonous for the body. All this was fixed by reducing the amount of oxygen percentage so that all of this doesn't happen. But now, imagine a diver who dives 100 meters, he has to fix pipe underwater and he spends 3-4 hours. Pressure on his body is around 11 bar. So that means the air pressure inside the body is also 11 bar. There is so much pressure. The air inside your body penetrates your blood vessels and your skin. While the diver is ascending, the pressure outside decreases, which will mean that the air inside will try to now escape. In order to ensure that this air does not come directly out of the skin causing blisters, the diver will stop at regular intervals, start breathing a mix of oxygen and helium at the same pressure as that is outside on his body. What this will do is, it will keep correcting the pressure inside the body, and because the mix of air has penetrated the vessels in the body, it takes time for this to happen. So it cannot be that diver reaches 5 bar, changes the cylinder and immediately rises. So first he'll start breathing 5 bar pressure concentrated air and will wait for his internal pressure to match the external pressure, and consequently will keep rising, stopping, decompressing, and finally reach the surface with almost a minimal difference between the surface air pressure and the internal body pressure. This whole system makes it very inefficient. Someone needs to spend almost a day decompressing, whereas the work done was for only a few hours. So the alternate to this was, why not create a chamber which has the same pressure as is at the place where this diver needs to work, where these divers will stay for almost up to a month, so that every time they go work and come back, there is no need for decompression. So you spend a month, repair the pipes, and after the month is over, you decompress once and the job is done. So no constant compressing and decompressing. This chamber is also filled with the same air that the diver is breathing, right? Which is helium mixed with oxygen called heliox. It is inside this chamber the diver's watch comes in contact with air, which is helium. And you would probably be wondering why helium? Because helium is an inert gas. Even if you go down to 500-600 meters, it will not react to your body. And that's the reason why it was chosen. Helium molecules are so tiny that it can penetrate those minor gaps that even water cannot penetrate. So now what happens is, the diver is there for almost a month. The pressure inside chamber is 30 bar, and inside the watch the pressure initially was 1 bar, equivalent to the pressure on the surface of the ocean. Helium gas is now constantly penetrating and going in. After almost a month, helium has entered inside the watch and the pressure inside the watch is also 30 bar. So once the month is over, chamber will decompress over, let's say, 24 hours, which is not enough time for the helium to escape back out. And as the glass is not screwed down, it is push fitted. The air pressure applied inside easily pops the glass. The divers faced this problem and they asked Rolex if they could come up with a valve to release the extra helium when the decompression starts. So as soon as you start decompressing, you open the valve, the pressure inside the chamber reduces, so does the pressure in the watch. And also in current Rolex watches, there is a spring mechanism. When the pressure is too high, it automatically opens the valve and the air comes out. And also, the point that some of these watches have day and date functions, because the diver has to stay in these conditions for almost a month. They like to keep a track of what day and date it is. I hope there is no more confusion on how helium enters a diver's watch and how a helium escape valve is not necessary for diving but only required for saturation diving.